The crystal chandeliers cast fractured light across the mahogany walls of Manhattan's most exclusive private club. Each chandelier was a masterpiece of Bohemian craftsmanship, imported in 1892 and maintained by a dedicated team that earned more than most lawyers. Here, in the Vanderbilt Room, fortunes changed hands over wagyu beef flown in from Kobe and 40-year-old Macallan that cost more per ounce than gold. Here, empires were built and destroyed between the appetizer and dessert. Here, conversations happened that would never appear in any transcript, deals were struck that would never see a courtroom, and power flowed like the aged Burgundy in the temperature-controlled cellars 3 floors below. Elena Vasquez, 26, moves through the room like a ghost. Her black uniform, standard issue for the Monarch Club's service staff, blends into the shadows cast by the wall sconces. Her dark hair is pulled back severely, not a strand out of place, practical and invisible. She carries a silver tray with the precision of someone who has learned that perfection isn't just expected, it's survival. Her steps are measured, soundless on the antique Persian carpet. She's learned to walk without disturbing the air, to exist without occupying space. 3 years of practice had made invisibility an art form. No one looks at her. No one ever looks at her. In rooms like this, service staff exist in the peripheral vision of the powerful, present but unseen, necessary but forgettable. Elena had grown accustomed to invisibility. Some days she preferred it. She sets down a glass of Macallan in front of a silver-haired man without making eye contact. Her fingers are steady, practiced. But beneath her calm exterior, her mind is racing, as it always is. 3 years ago, Elena Vasquez graduated summa cum laude from Columbia Law School with a concentration in securities regulation and corporate fraud. She had written her thesis on shell company detection methods, earning praise from professors who had spent decades in the field. She had been the youngest person ever accepted into the SEC's honors program, beating out candidates from Harvard and Yale. The Wall Street Journal had profiled her as the future of financial enforcement. Partners at Sullivan and Cromwell, Cravath, and Skadden had circled her name. She had been unstoppable, brilliant, destined for greatness. Then her mother's diagnosis came. Maria Vasquez had been a high school English teacher for 32 years, the kind of educator who stayed after school to help struggling students and spent her own money on classroom supplies. She had raised Elena alone after her father left, working 2 jobs during the summers to ensure her daughter never wanted for anything. She had attended every debate tournament, every mock trial competition, every graduation. When Elena got into Columbia Law, Maria had cried for an hour, stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The cruelest diagnosis, the kind that gives you just enough hope to bankrupt you before it takes everything. Experimental treatments in Houston, clinical trials in Switzerland, immunotherapy protocols that cost more per month than most people earn in a year, the kind of medicine that insurance companies design exclusions specifically to avoid paying for. Elena had burned through her signing bonus in the first month. Her savings lasted until the 3rd round of treatment. She had taken out loans against her future salary, then loans against those loans. She had sold her apartment, her car, everything she owned except the law books her mother had bought her when she passed the bar. She had done everything a daughter could do. She had fought with insurance companies, negotiated with hospitals, researched every clinical trial in the world. She had held her mother's hand through chemotherapy and told her that everything would be okay. It hadn't been enough. It's never enough when the universe decides to be cruel. Now she carries trays instead of briefs. She pours drinks instead of reviewing merger agreements. She stands in the shadows of rooms where decisions are made that affect millions of lives, and she says nothing because she has no right to speak. The $387,000 in debt doesn't care about her law degree. The collection agencies don't care about her grief. The world doesn't care that she can spot a securities fraud from across a crowded room. She's a waitress. That's all anyone sees. Elena moves to the sideboard, arranging bottles of single malt with mechanical precision. Lagavulin, Talisker, Oban. She knows them all by sight, by smell, by the subtle variations in color that indicate age and quality. She's learned 100 details of luxury service, none of which require the skills that once made her extraordinary. But her eyes, sharp, analytical, trained to catch inconsistencies that others miss, drift across the room despite herself. Old habits die hard. A securities lawyer learns to read rooms the way a novelist reads faces, to identify players and assess motivations, to sense when the surface calm hides dangerous currents beneath. Tonight, the currents feel wrong. Tonight, something in this room is dangerous. The private dining room is arranged for a high-stakes meeting. 8 leather chairs surround the table, hand-stitched Italian leather, each one worth more than Elena's monthly salary, but only 5 are occupied. Documents are spread across the polished mahogany surface like cards in a high-stakes poker game, contracts with dense legal language, financial statements thick with footnotes, due diligence reports bound in professional covers. Elena recognizes the formatting instantly, the indentation patterns, the citation styles, the way the schedules are organized. She's drafted hundreds of documents like these, staying up until 3 in the morning to ensure every reference was accurate, every clause was airtight. Her fingerprints were on merger agreements worth billions of dollars, though no one in. This room would ever know it, a merger agreement, a big one, judging by the thickness of the appendices and the number of schedules. Probably tech sector, based on the intellectual property representations she can glimpse from across the room. She refills water glasses, invisible, listening without appearing to listen. Her hands move automatically while her mind catalogs every detail. Gerald Whitmore, to the table. The due diligence is complete. Nexus Dynamics is exactly what we need. Their AI patents alone are worth triple the acquisition price. Elena's hand pauses for a fraction of a second on the water pitcher. Nexus Dynamics. She had followed that company during law school, a promising tech firm with breakthrough machine learning applications. Last she'd heard, they were struggling financially, their founder embroiled in some kind of patent dispute. She finishes pouring and retreats to the shadows, her mind already turning over the fragments of information, like puzzle pieces. Something about this feels familiar. Something about this feels dangerous. But she's just a waitress now. Whatever games are being played in this room, they're not her concern. She has enough problems of her own. She smooths her apron and waits for the next request, her face blank, her thoughts hidden, her brilliance buried beneath the weight of circumstance. The door opens. The room's energy shifts instantly. Marcus Cole, 52, enters with the quiet authority of a man who doesn't need to announce his presence. He doesn't walk so much as occupy space, filling the room with an intensity that makes the air feel heavier. His suit, Savile Row, bespoke, the kind that requires 3 fittings and costs more than a luxury sedan, fits him like armor. His watch, a Patek Philippe Grand Complication, could pay off Elena's student loans with enough left over for a house. Forbes has called him the architect, a reference to his legendary reputation for building companies from nothing and reshaping entire industries through sheer force of will. Fortune has profiled him twice. The Wall Street Journal quotes him like scripture. He was once asked by a reporter what his secret was, and he replied, "I see what others refuse to see. Coal Industries, $17 billion in assets spread across 4 continents, holdings in defense contractors, technology startups, pharmaceutical research, and clean energy." Marcus Cole built his empire from a single patent he developed in his garage at age 23, a revolutionary approach to battery storage that changed the automotive industry overnight. From that garage, he built laboratories. From those laboratories, he built factories. From those factories, he built a kingdom. Now, he moves markets with a phone call. Senators return his messages within the hour. Presidents of nations request meetings with him. He has dined with kings and advised prime ministers. He doesn't look at Elena as he takes his seat at the head of the table. Why would he? In his world, service staff are part of the furniture, present, functional, and utterly forgettable. She's wallpaper, she's background noise, she's nothing. Elena has grown accustomed to this. The men and women who dine in rooms like this have perfected the art of looking through the people who serve them. It used to sting. Now it's just another fact of her existence, as unremarkable as the temperature of the wine. Marcus, settling into his chair. Gerald. "I assume everything is in order." Gerald. "Absolutely, Mr. Cole. Dr. Reinhold has prepared a final presentation on Nexus's technology portfolio. Once you sign, we close tomorrow morning." Elena's attention sharpens involuntarily. Dr. Reinhold. She moves to clear empty glasses, positioning herself closer to the presentation's materials spread across the table. Her movements are casual, practiced, just a waitress doing her job. No one notices her noticing. Dr. Victor Reinhold, 58, sits at the far end of the table like a man who expects to be listened to, silver hair swept back from a high forehead, wire-rimmed glasses that catch the light, the cultivated appearance of academic authority carefully maintained. He wears his credentials like armor, each accolade another plate protecting him from scrutiny. MIT doctorate in computational neuroscience, former director of DARPA's Advanced Technology Division, author of 3 textbooks that are still used in graduate programs at Stanford and Berkeley. His reputation precedes him into every room. When Victor Reinhold says a technology is sound, Venture capitalists open their checkbooks. When he validates a patent portfolio, the SEC takes notice. He is the kind of expert whose word becomes gospel, the kind of expert who could make or break a $2.3 billion acquisition with a single report. Elena has seen his name in academic papers. She's read his work on neural network architectures during her time at Columbia, when she was still a student who believed her future was limitless. Now, she watches him slide documents toward one of the most powerful men in America, and something in her gut tightens with warning. Dr. Reinhold, sliding documents toward Marcus. Mr. Cole, I've validated every aspect of Nexus's intellectual property. The patents are sound. The technology is revolutionary. This acquisition will position Cole Industries at the forefront of the AI revolution for decades. Elena reaches for an empty wine glass near Dr. Reinhold's elbow. Her eyes flicker across the documents, a reflex she can't suppress. Financial projections, revenue forecasts, patent valuations. The numbers are impressive, almost too impressive. Gerald, the acquisition price is $2.3 billion Nexus's founder has already signed. We're just waiting on your signature, and Cole Industries becomes the dominant force in commercial AI. Marcus picks up the contract, his expression unreadable. Elena notices a slight tension in his jaw, the look of a man who has learned to trust his instincts but can't quite identify what's bothering him. Marcus? The SEC filings are complete, Gerald filed and pending approval. Standard timeline. Dr. Reinhold. Mr. Cole, I've staked my professional reputation on this assessment. Nexus's neural network architecture is years ahead of anything on the market. The defensive applications alone. Marcus, cutting him off. I didn't ask for a sales pitch, Dr. Reinhold. I asked if everything is in order. The room falls silent. Elena recognizes the dynamic. Subordinates afraid to speak. Power concentrated at the head of the table. Decisions made in isolation. She's seen it before, in boardrooms, in courtrooms, in every space where wealth accumulates and accountability evaporates. Gerald, everything is perfect, sir. This is the opportunity of a decade. Marcus uncaps his pen. His hand hovers over the signature line. Elena should look away. She should retreat to the sideboard and count the minutes until her shift ends. She should remember that she's nobody now, that her opinions don't matter, that the world of high-stakes mergers left her behind when her mother's medical bills arrived. But her eyes keep drifting to the documents, to the numbers, to a footnote on page 37 that she glimpsed for only a second, but that now burns in her memory like a warning flare. Something is very, very wrong. Elena's mind works like a machine designed to detect fraud, a machine that never turns off, that runs in the background of every moment, that catalogs anomalies even when she's trying not to look. 3 years at Columbia Law, a summer at the SEC's Division of Enforcement, countless hours studying case files and regulatory filings, it had all trained her to see patterns that others missed, to catch the inconsistencies that criminals tried to hide beneath layers of legitimate-looking paperwork. Fraud isn't obvious. That's what the textbooks never capture. Real fraud looks exactly like legitimate business until you know what to look for. The tells are subtle, a number that's too round, a timeline that's too convenient, a footnote that references an entity no one has heard of. The criminals who get caught are the ones who make stupid mistakes. The ones who succeed are the ones whose paperwork is almost perfect. Almost. She moves around the table, refilling water glasses she's already filled, buying time. Her eyes scan the documents with the speed and precision of a machine learning algorithm trained on 10,000 fraud cases. She doesn't read every word. She doesn't need to. She reads patterns. She reads absences. She reads the space between what's written and what's implied. The footnote on page 37. She needs to see it again. It flashed across her vision for only a second, but her brain has already flagged it as wrong, as dangerous, as something that doesn't belong in a clean acquisition agreement. She positions herself behind Dr. Reinhold, ostensibly adjusting a napkin. The page is still visible, at the edge of the document stack. There. Section 4.7b, Patent Assignment Schedule. The footnote references a licensing agreement with a company called Meridian Technical Partners, dated 18 months ago. Standard language on the surface, a sublicense of certain AI processing patents for research purposes. The kind of footnote that most lawyers would skim past, checking only that the legal boilerplate was in order. But Elena's brain catches what no one else in the room would notice, what no one in this room is trained to notice. Meridian Technical Partners. She knows that name. The recognition hits her like ice water, freezing her in place for a fraction of a second before she forces herself to keep moving, to keep breathing, to keep being invisible. It was a Tuesday in July, 3 summers ago. Elena was interning at the SEC, assigned to help organize case files for a massive enforcement action. United States versus Harrison, a securities fraud scheme that had bilked investors out of over $400 million through inflated patent valuations and fictitious licensing revenue. The scheme had been brilliant in its complexity, a web of shell companies generating fake licensing fees to make worthless intellectual property look like gold. The scheme's architect, David Harrison, had gone to prison for 12 years, but several of the shell companies in his network were never fully traced. The SEC's investigation had run out of resources before they could follow every thread. Some of the entities had simply vanished into the offshore darkness. Meridian Technical Partners was one of them. Elena remembers the name because she had flagged it in a memo that was filed and forgotten because there wasn't enough evidence to pursue. But she never forgot. She never forgets anomalies. Elena's pulse quickens. She forces herself to breathe normally, to maintain her blank expression, to keep moving like a waitress who has seen and heard nothing of consequence. She moves to the sideboard, her mind racing through implications with the speed of a supercomputer running probability calculations. Think. Think carefully. Think like the lawyer you used to be. If Nexus Dynamics has a licensing agreement with Meridian Technical Partners, that means the patents being sold to coal industries may not be clean. They may be encumbered by fraudulent claims that would unravel the moment anyone looked closely. Worse, the licensing agreement may have been used to generate fictitious revenue that inflated Nexus's valuation. Revenue that only exists on paper, money that never changed hands. The implications cascade through her mind like dominoes falling. If Marcus Cole signs that contract, if he acquires Nexus Dynamics at a valuation based on fraudulent revenue, he won't just lose $2.3 billion. He'll become the face of the scheme. The SEC will investigate the acquisition. They'll find the Meridian connection. They'll trace the fictitious licensing fees, and when they do, they'll need someone to prosecute, not the people who designed the fraud. Those people are already protected, hidden behind layers of offshore entities and deniable intermediaries. No, the SEC will prosecute the person whose signature is on the acquisition agreement, the person who certified that he had conducted due diligence, the person whose $2.3 billion validated the fraudulent valuation. Marcus Cole. They're setting him up. They're going to make him the fall guy for one of the biggest securities frauds in corporate history, and he doesn't even know it. Elena's hands tremble slightly as she arranges bottles on the sideboard. She looks at the players around the table with new eyes. Gerald Whitmore. He's sweating slightly despite the room's cool temperature. His eyes keep darting to Dr. Reinhold. Dr. Reinhold. His credentials are impeccable, but his body language is wrong, too eager, too rehearsed. A legitimate expert would show some doubt, some professional caution. Reinhold is selling too hard. Elena notices something else. The due diligence report on the table. She can see the cover page from where she stands. Prepared by Whitmore and Associates. Gerald Whitmore prepared his own due diligence report. He's supposed to be Marcus Cole's advisor, but he's also the one validating the deal. That's a conflict of interest that would make any securities lawyer's blood run cold. She glances at the financial projections again. The revenue forecasts show Nexus Dynamics generating $180 million in licensing revenue over the past year. But the footnote mentions only one licensing agreement, the one with Meridian. $180 million from a single licensing deal with a shell company that was part of a convicted securities fraud scheme. It's not just wrong, it's impossible, it's fabricated. And whoever fabricated it is about to make Marcus Cole the fall guy for one of the biggest frauds in corporate history. Marcus picks up his pen again. A Mont Blanc, elegant and expensive. His hand is steady. He's going to sign. Elena's heart pounds against her ribs. The sound fills her ears, drowning out the polite murmur of conversation at the table. She's a waitress. She's invisible. She has no authority here, no standing, no reason to speak. If she interrupts this meeting, she'll lose her job. The Monarch Club doesn't tolerate staff who interfere with member business. She'll be escorted out before she can finish a sentence, blacklisted from every high-end establishment in Manhattan. She'll have to find work at chain restaurants, at diners, at places that pay minimum wage and expect gratitude. And that's the best-case scenario. If she's wrong about what she's seeing, if she's made a mistake, if her memory of that SEC case is faulty, if Meridian Technical Partners is actually a legitimate company that just happens to share a name with a fraud vehicle, she'll be humiliated. She'll be sued for defamation. She'll be destroyed. Gerald Whitmore has lawyers who would shred her. Credibility without breaking a sweat, She has nothing to protect herself except the truth. And the truth is fragile when you're nobody. But if she's right, if she stays silent, she'll watch a man sign his way into a federal prison cell for crimes he didn't commit. She'll watch everything he built get torn apart by prosecutors and regulators. She'll know, for the rest of her life, that she could have stopped it and chose not to. Her mother's voice echoes in her memory. The truth doesn't need permission, Mija. It needs courage. The pen touches the paper. Marcus Cole begins to write his name. Club, private dining room, continuous Elena, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. Stop. The word hangs in the air like a gunshot. Every head turns. Marcus's pen freezes mid-signature, a thin line of ink trailing from the first letter of his name. The room goes utterly, completely still. Elena feels the weight of 5 powerful gazes landing on her like physical force, like the pressure of deep water, crushing and inescapable. The temperature seems to drop. The air seems to thicken. She's no longer invisible. She's no longer nothing. She's a waitress who just interrupted a $2.3 billion acquisition with a single word, and every person at this table is staring at her like she's lost her mind. Maybe she has. Maybe this is the moment her life truly falls apart. Or maybe this is the moment it begins again. Gerald, incredulous. Excuse me? Who the hell? Elena, stepping forward, her voice steady now. Mr. Cole, if you sign that document, you will be indicted for securities fraud within 6 months. The acquisition target is built on fabricated revenue from a shell company connected to a convicted fraud scheme. Your signature makes you criminally liable. 10 seconds. She gave him the warning in 10 seconds. The silence that follows is absolute. Then Gerald's face turns crimson. Gerald, this is outrageous. Someone remove this woman immediately. She's clearly, Marcus, quietly, dangerously, quiet. Gerald's mouth snaps shut. Marcus sets down his pen and turns his full attention to Elena. His eyes are cold, calculating, assessing. Marcus, explain. Elena takes a breath. This is what she was trained for. This is what she was born for. The law is her weapon, and she's about to use it. Elena, page 37 of the acquisition agreement, section 4.7b. There's a footnote referencing a licensing agreement with Meridian Technical Partners. She moves to the table, pulls the document toward her. Gerald reaches for it, but Marcus holds up a hand, stopping him. Elena Meridian Technical Partners was identified by the SEC as a shell company in United States versus Harrison, 2021. It was part of a network used to generate fictitious licensing revenue for overvalued patent portfolios. The scheme's architect is currently serving 12 years in federal prison. Dr. Reinhold, forcing a laugh. This is absurd. I've never heard of this case. And I've personally validated every patent in Nexus's portfolio. Elena, turning to face him. Then you should have noticed that the financial projections show $180 million in licensing revenue, but the only licensing agreement disclosed is with Meridian. A single agreement with a convicted fraud vehicle generating 9 figures in revenue? That's not a patent portfolio, Dr. Reinhold. That's a fabricated income stream designed to inflate Nexus's valuation. Reinhold's face pales. His confident smile wavers. Gerald, desperately. Mr. Cole, this woman is a waitress. She has no qualifications to... Elena. I graduated summa cum laude from Columbia Law School with a concentration in securities regulation. I completed the SEC's honors program and spent a summer in the Division of Enforcement reviewing exactly this kind of fraud scheme. I've read more Form 10-Ks than most analysts on Wall Street. I've analyzed more patent filings than Dr. Reinhold has ever signed off on. She pauses, letting the words land. Elena. And right now, Mr. Whitmore, I'm the only person in this room who isn't trying to send Mr. Cole to federal prison for crimes he didn't commit. The room is electric, charged with the kind of tension that precedes explosions. Gerald's face drains of color, not just pale, but gray, the color of a man watching his entire life collapse. Dr. Reinhold is gripping the edge of the table so hard his knuckles have gone white. The other executives at the table, silent witnesses to the confrontation, have stopped breathing. They've seen hostile takeovers, market crashes, billion-dollar disasters. They've never seen anything like this. A waitress in a black uniform and practical shoes, dismantling a fraud scheme that fooled everyone else in the room. Marcus, to Elena, his voice ice. Continue. Elena. The structure is textbook. Nexus Dynamics creates a licensing agreement with a shell company. The shell company pays licensing fees that exist only on paper. Nexus books the revenue, inflating its valuation. You acquire Nexus at that inflated price. When the SEC investigates, and they will investigate, because frauds this large always surface, you become the deep pocket. You're the one who signed the acquisition agreement. You're the one who certified the financials. You become the face of the fraud. Dr. Reinhold, standing abruptly. I won't sit here and be accused by the help. My reputation, Elena, cutting him off. Your reputation is the point, Dr. Reinhold. That's why they needed you. A former DARPA director validating the technology gives the fraud legitimacy. But you made a mistake. She picks up his validation report, flipping to a specific page. Elena, your report references patent US 10,847-91, Nexus's core neural network architecture. You describe it as revolutionary and years ahead of the competition. But that patent was filed in 2019, and the priority date traces back to a provisional application from 2017. Dr. Reinhold. So, Elena. So, Nexus Dynamics wasn't incorporated until 2018. The company didn't exist when the provisional application was filed, which means either the patent was fraudulently transferred or it never belonged to Nexus at all. Either way, the entire technology portfolio that's supposedly worth $2.3 billion is built on intellectual property that Nexus doesn't legally own. Reinhold's face goes gray. He looks at Gerald. Gerald won't meet his eyes. Marcus, deadly quiet. Gerald, look at me. Gerald slowly raises his head. His arrogance is gone. In its place is naked fear. Marcus, how much were they paying you? Gerald, voice cracking. Marcus, I can explain. Marcus, how much? The silence stretches. Then Gerald's shoulders slump. Gerald, 15 million, offshore. Marcus stares at the man who has been his trusted advisor for 7 years. The betrayal registers in his eyes, cold and complete. Marcus presses a button on the room's intercom. Marcus security. The Vanderbilt Room. Now. Gerald rises, his chair scraping against the floor. Gerald, Marcus, we can work this out. We go back 20 years. I made a mistake, but... Marcus, you tried to put me in prison, Gerald. You structured a fraud that would have destroyed everything I've built and made me personally liable for crimes I didn't commit. That's not a mistake. That's a betrayal. 2 security officers enter. Marcus nods toward Gerald and Dr. Reinhold. Marcus, detain them. My legal team will be here within the hour. No calls, no communication, no contact with anyone until the FBI arrives. Reinhold tries to protest, but the officers are already moving. Gerald's face is ashen, his expensive suit suddenly looking like a costume that no longer fits. Gerald, as he's led away. You'll regret this. You don't know who's behind? Marcus, I'll find out. And when I do, I'll destroy them the same way I'm going to destroy you. The door closes behind them. The room falls silent. The merger documents still sit on the table, unsigned. $2.3 billion in fraud, exposed in minutes by a woman everyone in the room had dismissed as invisible. A conspiracy years in the making, unraveled by knowledge they never expected to encounter in a waitress's uniform. Marcus stands motionless, processing what just happened. The other executives at the table, silent witnesses to the entire confrontation, slowly gather their things and slip out, suddenly finding urgent reasons to be elsewhere. Within minutes, Marcus Cole and Elena Vasquez are alone in the room where a billion-dollar fraud just died. Marcus turns to face Elena. For the first time, he really looks at her. Not through her, not past her, but at her. Marcus. Who are you? The question hangs in the air. Elena meets his gaze without flinching. Elena Vasquez. I work here. Marcus, a hint of something that might be amusement. That's not what I asked. Elena pauses. For 3 years, she's hidden who she was. Hidden her education, her capabilities, her dreams. She's become so used to being invisible that visibility feels dangerous. But tonight, she stepped out of the shadows. There's no going back. Elena, I told you. Columbia Law, SEC Honors Program. I was going to be a securities lawyer. I was going to prosecute frauds like the one that almost destroyed you tonight. Marcus, what happened? The question is simple, but the answer carries the weight of everything Elena has lost. Elena, my mother got sick, pancreatic cancer. The treatments that might have saved her weren't covered by insurance. I spent everything I had, everything I could borrow. It wasn't enough. She doesn't look away. She doesn't ask for sympathy. Elena, she died 2 years ago. I'm still paying off the debt, $387,000. That's why I'm here. That's why I pour drinks for men like you instead of protecting them from men like Gerald. Marcus is silent for a long moment. When he speaks, his voice has changed, the coldness gone, replaced by something Elena hasn't heard from him: respect. Marcus, you just saved me from prison. You saw what my entire team of lawyers, accountants, and advisors missed. You did it in seconds from across the room while serving water. Elena, I had the right training, and I recognized the pattern. Marcus, you had more than training. You had courage. Do you know how many people in this room knew something was wrong? Every one of them felt it. I felt it. But only you spoke. He walks to the window, looking out at the Manhattan skyline. Marcus, I've spent 30 years building coal industries, $17 billion in assets, 40,000 employees, and tonight I was 10 seconds away from signing it all over to criminals because I trusted the wrong people. He turns back to face her. Marcus, I need people I can trust, people who see what others miss, people who will tell me the truth even when it costs them everything. Marcus, I'm offering you a position, Chief Fraud Prevention Counsel, reporting directly to me. Not to the General Counsel, not to any board committee, to me. Your job will be to do exactly what you did tonight. Find the things that everyone else misses, protect the company from threats we don't see coming, and tell me the truth even when the truth is uncomfortable. Elena stares at him. The words don't quite register. After 3 years of carrying trays and collecting debt notices, the sudden shift feels like stepping off a cliff and discovering she can fly. Elena, you don't know me. You've known me for 15 minutes. I could be a fraud myself. I could be wrong about everything I just said. Marcus, a hint of something that might be dark humor. I knew Gerald Whitmore for 20 years. I trusted him with my life. I trusted him with my company. I trusted him with my freedom. Sometimes 15 minutes is all you need to see someone's true character. Sometimes 20 years isn't enough to see who someone really is. He picks up the unsigned merger agreement, pages and pages of carefully crafted fraud, and drops it in the wastebasket beside his chair. The sound of paper hitting metal is final, decisive. Marcus. The position comes with a salary of $850,000 annually, plus performance bonuses. Your first bonus will be immediate, a payment of $400,000 enough to clear your debts and give you a fresh start. Elena's breath catches. $400,000. The number that has haunted her for 3 years, suddenly within reach. Elena, I have conditions. Marcus, surprised then intrigued. Name them. Elena, I report only to you. No one else can override my investigations. If I find fraud, I act. No politics, no delays, no, let's wait and see. Marcus agreed. Elena and I want coal industries to establish a scholarship fund, full tuition, living expenses, and debt forgiveness for law students from families facing medical hardship, the people who lose their futures because they tried to save someone they loved. Marcus, what would you want to call it? Elena's voice softens, the armor cracking just slightly. Elena, the Maria Vasquez Memorial Scholarship. For my mother. Marcus nods slowly. Marcus, I'll fund it with $10 million, and we'll expand it every year. He extends his hand. Elena looks at it, the hand that nearly signed away his freedom, now offering her everything she lost. Marcus, do we have a deal, Ms. Vasquez? Elena takes his hand. Elena. We have a deal. The handshake is firm, equal, the grip of partners who have already survived one battle together. Elena Vasquez walked into the Monarch Club as a waitress carrying the weight of loss and debt. She walks out as Chief Fraud Prevention Counsel of a $17 billion empire, with the power to honor her mother's memory and ensure no one else has to choose between their dreams and the people they love.